Hey, everybody. Good evening, saints and friends. Listen, I am Melanie Pratt. I am your midday host on Praise 100.9 Radio 1 Charlotte. But I am here tonight to facilitate a conversation, a preview conversation about the summit. What I'm talking about, the summit, right? What summit am I talking about? Gospel Heritage Worship and Artist Summit. It is going down May 16th through 18th in the beautiful city of Durham, North Carolina. Now, listen, I have some amazing memories from Gospel Heritage throughout the years, and I really want to encourage you to mark your calendars and make plans to come. You might say, well, what's going to happen there? Well, we're going to tell you, and we are not going to delay. We're going to get this party started, of course, with the founder of Gospel Heritage as they celebrate 30 years. I want you all to welcome the beautiful Dr. Teresa Hairston Jackson.
Well, hey, Melanie, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Hey, Teresa, how you doing?
I am fantastic as well. It's just been a busy day. I've been traveling all day, so I look like I've been traveling all day, but it's all good.
You look beautiful as ever. Beautiful
Thank you.
as ever.
Thank you.
Now, listen, we are celebrating 30 years of Gospel Heritage. That is incredible.
It is incredible. I'm excited about this season. This year is going to be off the chain. I am so happy that 30 years is such a hallmark
Yeah.
of God's goodness, His sustainability. The vision it has no time stamp on it. So it continues because worship is forever.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know you are a groundbreaker, you are a trailblazer in so many ways. What made you start Gospel Heritage?
Gospel Heritage started out as a way to gather people to worship God, um, not only to worship Him, but to inject into the industry of gospel music more of the heritage of where we came
Right.
from, and to remember the sacrifices that were made to get us to where we are, the shoulders that we stood on, to honor
Mhm.
those people who were our trailblazers, our legacy bearers, our standard bearers, and then also to kind of connect with the new generation and those that were the up and coming artists and forerunners of the next seasons. So it's kind of like connecting the thread through all the generations, and it's been amazing. I am so grateful to God for that vision, and I've loved it every year. We stood for 23 years prior to this season,
Mhm.
and now I'm so honored that Vashon has taken it forward.
And I know it's kind of crazy, talking about our history. You would think with social media, we have access to so much information, but it seems like our history and our heritage can easily get lost in that. How is that
Yeah.
so?
Well, it's important because I just finished working with the PBS folks with Dr. Henry Gates on this gospel documentary docuseries that they did. And even with all that they did in 4 hours of a special, there's still so much more that should have been, I feel, covered and
Mhm.
will be covered in future documentaries. It's important that we know where we came from. A lot of times we focus on the performers and those people who stand in front of the mic and sing. But there's so much more that goes into it. There's so much more that has been the foundation of how we do what we do and why we do what we do that really is important to be able to do it with credibility, authenticity, and with the understanding of how important it is to accurately present and represent the gospel of Jesus Christ through song.
And I know Vashawn Mitchell was handpicked to carry this forward. I know you're excited about him and all that he brings. What else
Yeah.
are you excited about for the future of Gospel Heritage?
Well, I think that the important part is education.
Mm.
We can sing, and artists, are phenomenal, and it seems like every crop of artists get more phenomenal. But we've got to remember the foundation from which we come. From
Yes.
where we come from will always define us and make us different, unique, and powerful. We come from strength. And so it means that we must portray strength even as we move forward, and stand even if the world changes, and even if we're not as popular. We must stand on the foundations from which we came. We're the only genre that has a book that
Mm.
guides what we do.
Wow. Yeah.
The only
Absolutely.
genre.
Yeah.
And so there's so many uniquenesses about gospel that we can't forget and we can't minimize. And so that's what I'm excited about. And I'm excited that Vashawn comes from that place where he's not compromising. He's standing on the word of God. He's not
Mm.
trying to make gospel into something else and all of that. He's from Chicago, where he was birthed into this thing. And I'm just excited about what he's feeling God and lead him to, and who he's got coming to this conference. I really believe that God is getting ready to show up and show out in this conference as never before.
Well, let's talk to the one and only Vashawn Mitchell. He's the president and conference host of Gospel Heritage, handpicked by you.
Yeah.
And Vashawn, how you doing?
Hey, I'm amazing. How are you? How are you both?
Absolutely fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Hey,
And
son.
Rashawn, I'm so excited. I mentioned earlier, I've had so many great memories at Gospel here. I was just telling somebody a few weeks ago, I remember hearing Smokey Norfolk for the first time at
Yeah.
Gospel Heritage. I remember, the stage and the keyboard and
Mhm.
Dr. Hairston Jackson. I remember you introducing him and saying he's going to be the next big thing. I
Yeah.
remember seeing Vashawn there. Vashawn, what can we expect from this year's Worship and Artist Summit?
You know what? I am staying true to what Dr. Harrison started, and I have to go back to come forward. If that's okay. Is
Yeah.
that I got my start like a lot of artists and worship leaders, especially males, at Gospel Heritage. Because
Yeah.
coming up, there was not a lot of male worship leaders. Number one, there was not a lot of places to go as an artist to learn about artistry
Yeah.
as well. So Gospel Heritage gave me both of those in one place. So I was able to grow, to learn, and to go back to my local congregation and to take back what I learned at Gospel Heritage. So saying that, I say that to say that Gospel Heritage this year is just like the former years, but even better because we're going to the next dimension, the next level of Gospel Heritage, and that is teaching and training our worship leaders, our worship teams, our musicians, our singers, from church worship to artistry, all in one place that they can go back and be better at what they do. And that's what it's really all about. We're honoring some great people this year, honoring the one and only Dr. Judith Christie McAllister. A lot of people know that she's like the matriarch, I want to say, of praise and worship for the urban church, and she's been doing it for so many years, and she has always lifted the standard for us who are praise and worshipers as well. But then also because Dr. Harrison said, we're moving to the new generation as well. So I want to honor men of standard, who have been like the
Wow.
epitome of men and male vocalists for a long time. And although they don't sing together anymore, they are still voices that we have all looked up to, and they have paved the way for so many other male vocalists throughout the years. There's some great instructors this year. I mean, Tanya Baker from the Potter's House, Anthony Brown, Todd Gilbert. I'm teaching a little something. Also, we have a few artist classes as well with industry professionals from like Spotify and Apple Music to teach us how to use their platforms even better. So, I'm looking forward to this year. It is our first time since COVID. So I'm praying that, people understand that we're still around, we're still alive and well, had to take a little time to regroup and recoup, but we're coming back bigger and better than ever. We're celebrating 30 years. But officially at our 26th conference, we're losing 3 years, but we're here, we're back better than ever. And one thing I'm gonna say, Dr. Hanson said it earlier, is that we're leaning towards gospel heritage education. And that's what's really important, is that as we develop all this information that we have in these classes and these courses, they will eventually go online to our website for gospel heritage education, so that smaller churches who can't afford to, do these big old conferences and all that, they can actually go to our website and register for a course on praise and worship, or a course on artistry, or a course on how to manage your praise team or your worship team, or how to manage multiple services. It's a lot to go to doing ministry now, and we're taking our conference and our education platform to more of an education platform within the next year. So look forward to that. So that's all. I encourage everyone, to register. It's really, I'm glad to be in this position, because one thing Dr. Harrison knows is that I'm not selfish. So it's not all about me. It's about what we leave in the next generation, or what we leave in the next worshiper, the next praiser, the next artist, and whatever we can share to develop you to go back and be better than you were when you came. That's what we do at Gospel Heritage.
I love that. And one of the things I do remember about Gospel Heritage, and I know is true going forward, is it really is for everybody. It's not just for artists. It's for, like you said, church praise teams and choirs and directors. And one thing about us, I always say nobody in gospel has one job. Like we are, we are all more than one thing. Like, our pastors sing, we have artists that do radio. We have radio people that manage artists. We've got art, everybody does more than one thing. Yeah. And so this is an opportunity, like you said, for education for all sides of it. Was that part of the original vision, to allow everyone to come together in one place, regardless of what your place in the industry was?
For me, it's always been about us coming together from different perspectives. Mm-hmm. And I never had, the whole upper echelon of artists, and then the church folk had to sit over here. It was everybody comes together.
I remember that.
In the same place.
Yeah.
And we all, if we live right, we all gonna live in the same place.
It's gonna happen. It's the internet. It's gonna happen eventually.
I love that. But Sean, I know the industry is changing rapidly, has changed so much, but continues to change. And how much of the education piece is going to be focused on, the changes in, perhaps publishing or DSPs and those types of things that we all need to continue to learn more about?
Absolutely. The industry continues to change. And the thing that we're not saying is changing faster than ever. So it's all about us getting educated. And like Dr. Harrison knows, she was my biggest supporter. I went back to school about 4 years ago for music business education because it was changing so fast. I wanted to get a degree in the changes. So basically, I wanted to share what I've learned, but also bring together a panel as well that talks about publishing, that talks about new deals and DSPs and how to make those work for even not only established artists, but artists who are coming up. But also, I think the biggest part of it is that they have representatives from Spotify or from different places that will actually teach us how to use their platform. Because I am so sure that a lot of us are not using their platforms holistically, or what all we can use from them. So this is the best place to come and to learn that as well. I learned it, when it was, back in the early 2000s, but it is still a place to go to learn it, to learn the industry changes. I think it was one of the artists said a long time ago is that I'm glad I saw the change and was able to adjust before the change versus catch up to the change. I think gospel is tired of playing catch up to the change, and it's time for us to be a part of the change.
And this is going to be a great place for you to get the information. And speaking of education, we're going to bring in Dr. John Paul McGee, who is the Vice President of Gospel Heritage. And I know you are actually at Berkeley right now at an event. So we wanted to pull you in. How are you doing this evening?
Where's your volume?
Hey, we can't hear you.
Take your Bluetooth off. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. Are y'all praying? Y'all praying?
Okay, we got to pray more.
Well, we'll let him work out his sound. But Vashawn, why don't you tell us why someone should register for this year's summit?
Well, you know what? I'm going to go far beyond that. I think individuals should register who want to learn more about praise and worship and sit up under some major worship leaders who are basically making moves and are able to share their education with them. The classes are master classes this year. If you've ever been before, I kind of downsized a little bit so everyone can experience the classes and not be running all over. So basically, after the service, they will go straight to the first master class in the same room. So we want everyone to get this experience this year. I encourage pastors to sing your praise team members, not just the leaders, send the members, the musicians. We have musician courses that bring all the musicians together to not only play with each other, but to learn how to manage being in church and on the road. To understand the assignment that is put before you. So basically, it is a place that you can register individually. Bring your praise team, bring your choir. Understand this: praise and worship is not just for teams; it's for all of us. No matter how big or small you are,
Yeah.
it is a sound and it is something to understand. I always say it this way: is that we all are part of the same team. It's just sometimes we split up to manage our ministries, but we're still on the same team. So from musicians, singers, songwriters, worship leaders, the worship team, choir members, it's time to come together and to learn and grow together. One thing I did not do yet, and I may do it, I didn't have a dance course this year, but I got in trouble, so I got a few emails.
You want
So
me to
we're back.
teach it? I'll teach it.
Oh, you come on, bring your banners and everything. We're going back to the drawing board because a lot of people have emailed about, where's the dance classes. So you'll see that come up real soon on the website because I don't want to leave no one out that's a part of church ministry. And we've added something else. I'm gonna let John Paul talk about it as well as for ministry leaders as well. From administration to those who just need to be education beyond what we're doing. Is that we have some major connections coming to do that as well. So John Paul, I know you got to go, so I'm gonna just turn it back over to you. And we still can't hear you.
Wave at the people.
Let's let everyone say hello. John Paul is an amazing speaker, just in case you didn't know.
Share with what his role is with Gospel Heritage.
But John Paul is the vice president, but he's also one of our main educators when it comes to content because John Paul carries several degrees, but a lot of those are in ministry as well. So he's like my right-hand guy, but he also keeps me grounded in education and how it's important for us to not only do ministry education, but to combine ministry and collegiate education. So our courses are not just staying, how you do this, how you do that, but it's actually going towards enhancing people's ministry education and eventually towards degrees as well as certificates in ministry. So definitely, you can't hear him say it from his own voice right now. But
can you all hear me now?
There we go.
Look at
God.
God.
All right.
Look at God.
He will do it if you let him. He will.
If you let him. Huh?
If you let him, he will.
So
So
I'm
I'm
just
just trying
giving
to say
all
hello.
accolades.
So good evening, Melody. Good evening, Dr. Teresa Hairston Jackson. Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
And my apostle, President Bashan Mitchell. Thank you all for allowing me to share space with you all tonight. It's just a blessing to always be in you all's company. So I'm finally glad that y'all can hear me. I'm glad we got that worked out. All right.
Bashan, you were sharing that you wanted him to share about the education piece.
Yeah, because Dr. John Paul is so vast, and a lot of people don't really know, but John Paul is educated in music. He's also a pastor, he's educated in theology as well, and his doctor is not, I can't say that, but he's a real doctor.
John Paul, tell us why people should register and touch on the education piece for us and the opportunities at Gospel Heritage.
I think first and foremost that people should register for the refreshing. I think that before we get into all the nuts and bolts and the granular details of why, I just believe that Gospel Heritage has always, since its inception, been a space where people can get refreshed and renewed and revived since the beginning. Right. There's always been such a tangible presence of the Lord that rests not just in the worship services, but also in the classes. I mean, we talk about years ago, literally, I think it was the New Birth Conference where there was literally a cloud in the room. And, that same cloud has followed the conference everywhere it's gone. And it's just a place where people can come together and be renewed and refreshed through fellowship and through relationship building, because the currency of the kingdom is relationships. And so it's not about coming to a place where you can become the next best thing, because the next best thing always loses its luster after a while. But when you develop relationships that can last a lifetime, and when you find a safe space where you can be and evolve, that's a place you ought to want to lend yourself to. And that's what Gospel Heritage has been for me over the years. I started off just attending the conference. The next thing you know, I was directing the choir. The next thing you know, somehow I wound up close to Dr. Hairston, and she was calling me at 7 o'clock, waking me up in the morning, giving me assignments to do.
Yeah.
And then, you know, through Gospel Heritage, you know, I became even closer with Vashawn. I had known Vashawn through other spaces, but became even closer. And I was privileged to walk with Dr. Hairston to assist her in the vision. And then when Vashawn became president, I've been walking beside him and assisting in the vision. And the vision has not yet been fully manifested, but the Bible tells us that the vision, though it tarries, we should wait for it, right? So the vision has remained constant. I believe that the strategies and the methods whereby which this vision is realized change, and they should. And so I was a proud product of Gospel Heritage under Dr. Teresa Hairston, and I'm a proud product of Gospel Heritage as Vashawn leads us into this next space. And so I believe I was actually one of the last preachers of Gospel Heritage in 2020. February 29th, actually, because it was a leap year. And the title of the conference was Leap. It's time to leap, right? Taking a leap. And now this year's theme is uncharted territory. And I believe over this last 3 years that we've been kind of figuring things out when, you know, in the middle of the pandemic, post-pandemic, now we're out of it and, you know, still trying to find our way. I believe that many people realized that the church as an institution cannot be their sole source of income. It cannot be their sole source of existence anymore. And people have begun searching out and seeking out ways to better themselves and to elevate themselves and to educate themselves outside of what we would deem as church, the four walls on Sunday morning, right? And so Gospel Heritage now has this responsibility, and has always had it, but has it especially now, this responsibility to help wed this desire for growth and expansion that's outside of the realm of the church with our kingdom responsibility as worship leaders, right? So how do I become gainfully employed, right? Move into an innovative space in my own business and entrepreneurship and ministry and all of that, but still remain connected and true to the mission of the church. And at the end of the day, our mission is to worship and to glorify God. So Gospel Heritage is now becoming that space where it's a catch-all in a sense, right? Where we are now motivating you not just to be educated in a 3-day conference, but to perpetuate that outside of the conference, which is a part of the original vision. The original vision was never for us to just leave Gospel Heritage with 3-4 days of information and then keep that to ourselves. But the original vision was for that education to be generative. And so now we're moving into space, or continuing to blaze trails and spaces, to encourage people to get degrees, to encourage people to go to school, right? To encourage people to get certifications, and not just in music and the arts and ministry, but finding spaces that are relevant both to music and business, music and religion, music and society, worship and society, all these various things. And so this year we're seeking to further our inroads with accredited universities and colleges. That's very, very important to state. No shade, because there are many who do buy their degrees, but we're seeking to partner ourselves with accredited universities so that we can have credit-bearing programs that help validify and certify people in areas that are germane to what we offer. So we're looking at, of course, music and the arts, innovation, business, entrepreneurship, right? So that we can raise kingdom people who have influence not just in the church, but also in the marketplace. And so I'm excited about that, because I do believe that education has gotten us to where we are now as a people, and education is going to take us the rest of the way. Dr. Hairston has this thing about writing and publishing, right? That's so, if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. Right. And so teaching people how to, get their vision down on paper, to write, and all of these types of things are very, very important. So we'll be educating people in various spheres of influence at this year's conference. So I'm excited about the partnerships that we're building. I'm excited about the classes and what they will do for us at the conference and beyond.
I love that. Education and inspiration, and you can get it all at the summit. But Sean, now you started to tell us a few secrets. Can you tell us some detail? You got some special people coming that you can give us a little sneak peek. This is a sneak peek. This is a sneak
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah, I'm glad Dr. John Paul said that because not only will there be educators there, but there are also some artists and worship leaders that I believe are managing uncharted territories very well.
Hmm.
So Anthony Brown will be teaching one of the artist classes. Todd Gelber will be teaching the worship class. Um, Tanya Baker, the worship class as well, and a few others. And we're also going to have a moment on the couch with Shirley Caesar, Pastor Shirley Caesar.
Nice.
Basically, it's always great to just sit down and get impartation from those who have walked this road so long. We can never forget them. The shoulders we stand on, the knowledge and wisdom that's going to come from that moment. And I'm leaving one piece out is that if you can sing or if you can hold a note, we're building our own experience to where we're going to have an in-room experience and bring back some of those standards of the church as well, and just sing them together, put them down on video, record them, and make sure people can remember songs by Thomas Woodfield, songs by Andre Crouch, songs by Richard Smallwood, who's still here. Just remembering those songs that my grandma would say would carry you and bring you. So basically, it's not just for the worship leader, but it's for anyone who wants to just build their knowledge in praise and worship, build their knowledge in administration, build their knowledge in artistry, but also, like he said, Dr. John Paul said, it's the camaraderie, it's the fellowship, it is the time together that helps us go back to our ministries, go back to our lives, go back to our careers on fire, and it has just been that place. I share for me, I can go down a list of artists who was started at Gospel Heritage for myself, Tasha Cobbs Leonard, William Murphy, and the list goes on and on and on. I said William Murphy, well, Bishop William Murphy will be preaching for us. Bishop William Murphy will be preaching because one thing about Gospel Heritage is that all the education is that there's always great impartation in the services.
Yeah.
And I believe that we have two of God's greatest speakers who are going to impart in us, and that is Valerie Moore and Bishop William Murphy.
Wow.
Bishop Godby, the host pastor, will be preaching in the morning. I'm going to preach this year because I believe God has given me a special word for those who are walking in uncharted territory because that's the vision he gave me. Because in industry, in ministry, in leadership, there's a lot of things that we haven't seen before, but God hasn't changed. He's still God. He's still on the throne. He's still moving. He's still shaking, and he's still making sure that we understand that it's about him, not about us. So that's just a sneak peek of what's going on. Go to the website gospelheritage.org for more information. But it's gonna be amazing. It's no big eyes and little U's here. When we come here to fellowship together. I became the minister of music of Gospel Heritage, and I was 20 something years old. And I rocked with Dr. Teresa for about 10 years before we turned it over to someone else. But I learned so much being there and serving to go back to being number one. Sometimes we have to learn this number two anointing before we be number one. We have so many leaders now that don't know how to serve. So you can learn it from someone who did it, and that's where I got it from. So I don't want to talk too much. But Gospel Heritage is in Durham, North Carolina, May the 16th, 17th, and 18th. It's going to be going down. Get your team, register, ask your pastor to send you. And I'm going to just say, if you register between now and March the 15th, you can buy one, get one free. I want the people there. I want you in the room, and I want you to go back and tell everyone I was there, I experienced, and my life was changed.
Incredible. Buy one, get one free now through March 15th.
Yes.
Make sure you go to the website and register. It is education, learning how to manage the things, manage the planning, manage the business. It is inspiration. There are church services, worship services, moments that I can remember where God came in the room. And then, of course, there's connection and opportunity to be amongst your peers, to be with artists, to be with writers, to be with pastors, to be with educators. So you can absolutely get whatever it is that you need. And this is what I love. Sometimes you don't know what you need. Sometimes you come thinking for example, you want to be an artist and then you learn something about publishing or writing, you find a whole new thing. You know, I mentioned earlier that nobody in gospel has one job. Some of that is by necessity. Some of that is just because one thing leads to another. We're all connected. All parts of it are connected. And so Gospel Heritage, this summit is an opportunity literally for you to explore as well and see what things are new. Sometimes you do not know what's out there.
Yeah.
So we want to invite you again. It's May 16th through 18th in Durham, North Carolina. You can register now. It's buy one, get one right now through May 15th. It's Vashawn, why don't you invite the people out one more time?
Through March 15th. Listen.
March 15th.
Yeah, March 15th. Listen, take it from me, y'all. A singer, songwriter, minister of music, servant. This place is where I came and I learned everything about ministry and where to go. I want to continue that, and I want you to come and learn as well. And we're gonna have a little fun. I may get in trouble. If you're super saved, don't come the first night. But the opening night, we're having a gym shoe ball. So dress up and put on your best sneakers, and we're gonna have a good time. And in another room, we're gonna have a spades tournament. If you can play spades, if it won't send you to hell, but we're gonna have fun as well. I know we talk about church and classes and all that, but come to have fun too. You know, I call it this way in my book. I call it, you got to come apart before you come apart. So coming to Gospel Heritage would allow you to do that. And when you go back, you're going to be on fire, refreshed, and ready for whatever's next in your ministry.
It's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to worship. It's Gospel Heritage, the summit, May 16th through the 18th. Log on to gospelheritage.org for more information. I cannot wait to see you there. Dr. Hairston Jackson, Vashawn Mitchell, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And good night.